Everything's above board. Let's do our best to come up with your best today. You're under scrutiny with my family members here today. So I've made many remarks about this is the best media group in the country. So come through today. There's some pressure on you. Okay? I know how that's going to go with you, Cobble. So it'll be rough. Yeah, no doubt. All right, well, we'll start off with just a recap of Saturday's game against Vanderbilt. Certainly was happy for our players and their resolve, their ability to bounce back, whatever you want to say, relative to their mindset, I think, is what I was most proud of, and how they thought about the week, the game. And they played very well. Garrett Nussmeier played his best game of the year. We were balanced on offense. We had one negative play, whereas the week before we had 14 negative plays. We were much more efficient on first down, which led to very favorable second down situations for us. So it played itself out well from an offensive standpoint with balance and running the football. Josh Williams was, outstanding in that game, catching the football out of the backfield, blocking, running the football with a great demeanor. Will Campbell was outstanding, played his best game individually on the offensive line. And we got other really good performances. I thought DJ Chester probably played his best game of the year. So all in all, from that perspective on the offense, and then defensively, we had one misfit on a run play where they were able to get an explosive play, and then we had a chance to make a play on a pass down the field where we were in cover two. We just didn't make the play. So a couple of explosive plays, but really did a nice job controlling the flow of the game, limiting Pavia's production. And again, I think going against a team that's well coached and had a really good win against Alabama, we're pleased with the outcome. So looking back at it, Caden Durham leads all freshmen in the SEC with rushing. We've got 3 players with over 50 receptions. Nuss is second in the SEC in passing touchdowns, total offense, and touchdowns. And, I know it's not sometimes you look at some of the sexier stats, but Damian Ramos set a school record for consecutive PATs, now at 121. And that should not get overlooked. So a much-needed win, but a win that our players really took full accountability during the week, led, and when you have a team that leads from the inside out, you see that performance on the field. So we'll continue to work on that this week and look to duplicate that against an Oklahoma team coming off a great win against Alabama. This is their first game in Tiger Stadium, and a team that presents a number of different challenges. They ran the ball extremely well this past weekend. Jackson Arnold, I think, is an outstanding quarterback. He can throw it, but rushed for 107 yards and 2 touchdowns. Rushed for 131 yards on 25 carries. So, I think everybody here knows our history with the quarterbacks that run the football. That will be a challenge for us. They have an offensive line that is coming together, and a defense that, as you know, Coach Venables is the longtime defensive coordinator at Clemson before he became the head coach at Oklahoma, and just does a great job. I got a chance to go against him several times at Clemson, and they mix things up. They make things complicated. They give you a multitude of different looks. It's a good front. Danny Stutzman is an All-American linebacker. So this would be a great way to finish off the regular season with a team that's coming in off of a great win. both teams looking to finish the season strong. So with that, we'll open up to questions.
Coach, right here, you mentioned after the game on Saturday that you saw a lot of maturity from the younger players. Can you talk a little bit about that? And just what does it mean to have a guy like Josh Williams and Will Campbell and these guys who've really kind of set the tone and how important that is going forward for this program?
Yeah, look, as I said, right, when players decide that they're going to lead from the inside out, it's also about, those actions become mirror actions for the younger players. They see how that's done. So when you get a Trades Green or you get a Caden Durham, and they see how that's done, that modeling takes effect, and you could see that, through the week. There are times where you wish that happened earlier, right, where those guys got up and were vocal. But I think they were growing and learning as well in terms of how to be leaders. But clearly, when you have veterans like that step up, it affects the younger players because they see how it's done, and they want it to be recognized as well. So their efforts were recognized by the way that they practiced this past week.
Hey, Coach, what defensive challenges does Oklahoma present, especially after this last game, how they shut down Alabama?
Yeah, so, they have a new offensive coordinator. As you know, they made a change in the offensive coordinator position earlier in the year, and it really changed the dynamics of the offense. The offense is now, it was averaging close to 85, 90 plays a game. I think they've had 62 plays their last two games. So it is a ball control offense. Jackson Arnold is an outstanding quarterback. He can throw it extremely well, but this is now much more about controlling the football, running the football, playing with physicality. They've got perimeter skill, but I think it's centered around much more of a run-centric quarterback run and take care of the football. They had turned it over quite a bit. I think they might have been near the bottom of the country in terms of fumbles, and so I think they wanted to clean that up. And so you're seeing a much more controlled offensive structure now than you did earlier in the year.
Hey, Coach. We saw Harold Perkins at the game on Saturday.
Yeah.
Just curious if there's an update on kind of his recovery and if maybe there's been any conversations about what his future could look like.
Yeah, I mean, he's doing really well in his recovery. Talking to Owen Stanley, our athletic trainer, he's been he's been in the building quite a bit. Now that he's past the early stages of the repair, now it's about hard work. I don't know that he's made that final decision. I know he's weighing the options, and clearly we would love to have him back. But we know that those decisions are not easy. We'll support him in whatever he decides and provide him all the resources necessary to make the best decision for him and his family.
You mentioned the job DJ did and Will. What went right in the run game? Was it that as well as just winning those one-on-one battles between a running back and a linebacker safety?
Well, I think the quarterback, it starts with the quarterback. The ability to get us the favorable looks that gave the offensive line, the numbers, right? Where we could run combination blocks, where we could get leverage, where we could get some of the things necessary to have, a more consistent running game. And it starts with the quarterback, quite frankly. When you're in a one-back offense, you have to be able to do that. And I thought Garrett was outstanding. It was his best game by far. And look, you call a run play, the numbers aren't right, the ball goes out to an Aaron Anderson. He's going to make 2 or 3 people miss. That's really a run call. But the numbers weren't right. We're out on the perimeter. When they were right, we were able to run the football up into favorable numbers. And now those guys can effectively do the things that they're coached to do. Pull, gap, combination block, leverage. And we saw that on display in its best form against Vanderbilt.
Hey, Coach, after the game, you said you only used a handful of coverages on defense, and you ran the same pass play a couple of times. What was the thinking early in the week about simplifying things, maybe?
I think it went with the whole theme of what the week was about, and that was players taking ownership and coaches putting our players in the best position to succeed. So we didn't have execution mistakes. And as I think we all know, sometimes in my career, I've always looked at, if there's a lot of mistakes, there might be too much information. You might be doing a little bit too much. So we simplified some things, felt like we put our players in a really good position to succeed. And sometimes what goes hand in hand with that is simplifying some things.
Now, obviously, you can't talk about recruits by name, but y'all have taken a quarterback in each of the last 2 classes. Now that you don't have one committed, just kind of what's your plan at that position over the next few cycles, maybe to build on that spot?
Yeah, I think we'll always look at taking a quarterback each year, and we'll most likely take a quarterback again this year. We look at the calendar year a little bit differently than just, December. We have a February signing period. We have a transfer portal. So we'll continue to look at that and see how that best fits our roster. But I can tell you this, that the overall roster is much more important than one particular position. As much as we want to take a quarterback at this position, I think what's more important is the overall health of the roster. And so if it ends up being that we do take a quarterback, that's great. But I think our eye is on the strength of the entire roster.
Brian, you're right. At the linebacker this week, it looked like there was some change. Greg Penn played his fewest snaps. Devon Keys played a bunch. You mentioned West Weeks playing. Was that matchup, or was there an injury, or what happened there?
No, I think we just wanted to take some of the snaps off of Greg. West is somebody that had been banged up, Matt, most of the year. He had not been 100%, and we wanted to get him in this week, and in particular against a team that is a downhill, running football team. It just matched who he was. So nothing that Greg did. He's had an incredible, season for us. Devon Keys is played the last 2 games at the Sam linebacker position. We've chosen not to go with the star because of the nature of the teams that we're playing, and that could be the case again this weekend.
Ryan, following up on Wilson's question, there was some comments from the announcers during the game that you said maybe the recruiting realities in the wake of the decommitment might allow you to free up some money and be more aggressive in the portal. I know you've talked about you want to build a program through high school, but is this year where maybe you try to take the situation and work it to your advantage?
We'll be very aggressive. I think everybody that's followed us knows that we weren't very aggressive in the transfer portal. We put together a defensive line using minimal resources. We've really put ourselves in a position, and I'll use this term loosely, to stay well under the cap, so we could be quite aggressive this year, and we will be very aggressive in that area, as well as bringing in 16 mid-years. We're going to have 16 mid-years. We think that the program, in terms of the culture and the standards, are such that we can do that now, where we can bring in 16 freshmen and maybe one of, if not the largest, transfer portal classes as well.
Back to that 4-3 front. You talked about running that 4-3 front against power run teams. Just is the comfortability that you guys are experiencing with it now, having seen it twice, used it twice, is that something that you feel like very comfortable going into this last game, given another running quarterback coming at you? Yeah.
So, and you probably saw this on display when Devon's walked out over the number 2 or displaced in any fashion. His fit is back in the box. His fit is back into that B gap, and that's a hard fit when you're in space and then you've got to go back in and fit. It's really a linebacker fit back into the box. And, when you play with a nickel and he's got to go back in there, or you play with a star and he's got to go back in there, that puts some pressure on your defensive structure. Now, The opposite of that is, let's try to take advantage of that linebacker in space. Let's try to take advantage of him in the passing game. And we think Devon is very, very good in space, in awareness. He is a very good spot dropper. He's not a guy that's going to play man-to-man on the number 2 receiver, but he's really good in space. So we just felt like this was the best matchup to give us that kind of gap integrity of bringing him back in on run fits.
Coach, you just mentioned how it was important to kind of stay under the, I'm using air quotes here, the cap last year with the transfer portal, but be more aggressive this upcoming offseason. Why was that decision made to ramp up to this upcoming offseason when it came to that stuff?
Yeah, all of them are strategic decisions that you make from year to year, and it just didn't present for us in the manner that we felt like we were going to reach last year on some things, and just didn't. I think at the time when we were looking at players that made sense for us, they duplicated a lot of things. We don't have that duplication in the program anymore, so that's why in certain areas we'll be very aggressive.
I guess if I could follow up on the whole roster building, can you just explain what that's like? I mean, you're coaching the team right now, but you have a staff that's going to the early signing period, then the portal window immediately follows. So how is all that working to start building the roster for 25?
Well, it's Austin Thomas, myself, Frank Wilson in particular. The three of us are working on that on a day-to-day basis. We're having meetings with players, so it starts with retention first of players that have to make decisions relative to whether they're going to move on to the NFL or they're going to stay here. So the first part of that is retaining players that you want. The second part of that is the ongoing recruiting process and bringing players into your program through the recruiting process. The third level is the transfer portal and identifying particular positions that you believe that you need to go out and get a mature player that has played snaps at that position at a level that can impact your roster right away. And then the fourth is, who are the guys that are going to stay on this team? And you're evaluating those players that have stayed above the cut. So there's a lot going on as we continue to work on our football team to get W's and to have positive outcomes. So there's a lot going on right now in college football, and it's caused a lot of gray hairs. It's caused some guys to say, I think I'd rather be doing something else. I'm excited about it. I'm excited about what the roster can look like. I'm excited about what kind of football team we can put on the field. And it's going to be a fun couple of months.
You sort of hinted at it there to kind of stay on the topic. With rev share, first of all, do you think NIL here has kind of improved over the last year to the point where you kind of need it to be? And how does that change in any way next year with rev share potentially coming online if the House settlement passes?
Well, I mean, I think we can say it's a fait accompli that rev share is here, right? I think the long form from the courts is pretty clear in terms of what that's going to look like. I think everybody has got an idea of what those numbers are going to be. That will kick in, sometime in the summer. It's what you do prior to it kicking in. And that's really where everybody is keeping their cards close. And because that is the accelerator, right? You want to accelerate and be able to retain. You want to be able to go out into the transfer portal, and you want to be able to do that before revenue sharing. So you can begin to, if you will, balance off what your roster looks like in terms of the numbers when everybody comes into one locker. And if you just waited to revenue share, it's going to be a different look for different players. you can balance things off if you're aggressive here in the next few months, and that's what we plan to be.
And Coach, over here, so I know Paul Mubinga had to step in for Garrett, and how he's progressed, stepping in a tough spot. And you talk about the play of DJ Chester as well in the interior. How much has Paul and DJ, how they've evolved as gotten more and more playing time as the season's going on?
Yeah, so there were markers there that we were really, kind of excited about. Throughout the entire season, we're in a weight training program, and, we do, obviously, monthly we're testing our players, and DJ, his numbers have continuously gone up through the season, his strength numbers. We felt like that was something that needed to happen, the strength numbers. And he's at a point now at the end of the season that he's gotten to what we feel like is the standard of what he needs to be minimally at that position. Now, the growth will have to happen in the off season for him, but he's gotten stronger during the year, and that's now allowed him to handle a lot more of the one-on-ones, and he was able to do that this past weekend very well. Paul moves very well. It was changing his body type. It was getting him leaner. It was getting him physically stronger as well, but he's very smart, and he has the ability to move his feet, get up onto the second level, and do some things, quite well. And so we'll see how this all plays out in the off season. But you've got a couple of guys there that are sending at those positions.
Right back down here, Coach. The term CEO, head coach, has been used for guys like you and others across college football. How have you seen just this new influx of so many different things maybe change your role of being more hands-on? We obviously heard in the play calling aspect, but also off the field as well. Where do you feel like you've adapted in that?
Well, I get worried when I hear CEO, because then I think of an office and sitting in an office and having conference calls and meetings. Look, at the end of the day, you have to have relationships with your players. If you can't have those relationships with your players, then you can't get them to do some of the things that we had them doing last week. And so the head football coach today, and in the SEC in particular, it's a head coach-centric position, meaning contracts go through him, roster decisions go through him, decisions in terms of how you want to play offense, defense, and special teams, personnel, standards within your program, culture. There's a lot going on there. But what you can't miss is you can't be in those meetings all day and sit in your office and miss the relationships with your players. If you do that, then you are a distant CEO, and you're probably not in this business very long.
Just want your thoughts on the senior class you're going to honor this week. In particular, Josh Williams, who's earned 2 degrees, got like a 3.7 GPA, good player on the field. The example he set.
Could possibly be somebody in journalism, right? Could possibly sit with this esteemed group, right? No, I mean, I appreciate you bringing that up. I mean, we've got 21 that we're going to honor prior to the game. Zy Alexander has been a great addition, right, coming in from Southeast Louisiana. Garrett Dellinger has been a stalwart for us. We all know about Kyron Lacey and what he's done. Greg Penn, we talked about. Miles Frazier, 3-year starter. Braden Swinson, what a year he's had, right, in terms of coming off the edge. Parrish Shand, I mean, Swiss Army knife for us. He's done a little bit of everything, kind of unsung. He's played end, he's played tackle, he's our personal protector on punt, running down the field. Invaluable to us. Gio Paez has come in and given us snap after snap, hasn't missed a snap. He has just been a workhorse. You talk about eating innings up. He's a guy that eats innings up for you. He's just been a workhorse for us. Savion Jones has just had a monster year. His pass rush has been great. So just and there's others here, but just those guys have meant so much and have just dedicated so much of their time to the program. I mean, I know, we had that 3-game losing streak, but, I reminded these guys, they've still won 11 of their last 15 games, and they've had an incredible night schedule where they've won 15 out of 16 games. They've done some great things, and really proud of what they've done, and it'll be a great tribute to them, so thank you. You know, John's done it once. I think maybe he's done it twice. He might come out for the trifecta. We'll see. But he's been around, and he's working on his master's degree right now, and it's great to see that. Yep.
With a guy like C.J. Daniels, how much has he been working through this year, and what effect has he had on your offense?
Man, first of all, he's a great leader, and he's been a glue guy for us in terms of consistency every single day, playing through a more significant injury than maybe people realize. He's had a pre-existing condition, a heel injury that is almost a dislocation that I don't know how he does it. He practices, and we're careful with his practice during the week to get him to Saturdays. And then on Saturdays, he's just so consistent. He's down the field blocking. He's one of our best, if not our best blocker. He's precise in his route running. He's got strong hands at the point of attack. And we're just excited about having him with us, and all indications are that he's going to be back next year.
What are your Thanksgiving Day dinner must-haves?
Must-haves. Well, I love the white meat turkey with the gravy. Mashed potatoes are a must. And then I'm a traditionalist, I think, in those things. And then because of those turkey enzymes, I get a little bit sleepy. I need a couch. And I don't necessarily watch the football games, but they can be on as a backdrop. So maybe a good nap this Thursday afternoon. Thank you. Appreciate it. And you did great. My family will be pleased. Say they're going to clap for you, too. Best questions all year.